and we'll find you a home. Yes, we will. It's okay. Relax. Okay, so we're going. Yes, sweetheart. Om Mani Padme, 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 Om Mani Padme. Okay, so we'll continue on. So we talked about attachment. We talked about anger. Yeah. The next one is, here it's called pride or arrogance, but I actually think conceit might be a good translation, because there's different kinds of pride. You know, you can be proud of your accomplishments in a good way, or you're proud of what, you know, sometimes you're proud of somebody means you're rejoicing in their virtue, you're rejoicing in their accomplishment, but that's not the meaning here. Okay, here it's more like conceit or arrogance. So a distinct mental factor that, based upon the view of the transitory composite, I'll explain that in a minute. Transitory composite apprehending either an inherent I or mine, strongly grasps at an inflated or superior image of oneself. Okay, so what the term here, it's based on the view of the transitory composite. This is one mental factor that we're going to come to below. Another translation for it that I'm using now is a view of a personal identity. Okay, and it is the mind that, you know, we, on the basis of the body and mind, we label I or person, which is completely okay. But then, looking at that I, then apprehending that I, grasping that I as inherently existent. In other words, grasping at it as having its own independent essence, you know, that doesn't rely on anything. And that is part of the fundamental self-grasping that we have, that is the root of samsara. So here, this pride or arrogance is based on that view of a personal identity that apprehends either I or mine. And in addition, this conceit strongly grasps at an inflated or superior image of oneself. Okay, so I'm the best. I'm whatever it is, okay? You know, kind of conceit, arrogance. So that's this one. There's one kind of conceit they talk about in the Pali tradition that really, the term really resonates with me. It's called the conceit of I am. Yeah, just the conceit of I am an independent entity here in charge of everything. You know, it's really inflated. Then the fourth of the six root afflictions is ignorance. So this is an afflictive state of unknowing brought about by the mind being unclear about the nature of things, such as the Four Noble Truths, actions and their results, and the three jewels. Okay? So here, ignorance is called an afflictive state of unknowing. In other words, here ignorance is seen as an absence of knowing, a kind of fogginess, a mental unclarity, an obscuration that prevents us from knowing the nature of reality. Okay, in terms of the Prasangika view, this is the highest Buddhist tenet system, their view of ignorance isn't just an obscuration that doesn't see reality correctly, but it's a mental factor that actively misapprehends the nature of reality. So it's not just foggy. It like actively grasps things to exist in the opposite way from how they do exist. Okay? So whereas things arise dependent on causes and conditions, and things exist in dependence upon their parts, their components, and whereas things also exist in dependence on the mind that conceives and labels them, ignorance apprehends things existing in the exact opposite way, in a very independent way, that independent of causes, independent of parts, independent of the mind that conceives and labels it. So ignorance, apprehends things one way, reality is totally the opposite. And so this is why we want to develop wisdom, apprehending reality, because it apprehends things as they really are, which is the exact opposite way than how ignorance apprehends those things. Okay? So ignorance is said to be the root of samsara because based on it, this fundamental ignorance, then especially with regard to the self, the I, then we develop a very distorted view of how we exist. And we have this strong feeling of I am, and yet that I, that feeling grasps at, doesn't really exist in that way. So it's an over-exaggerated view of how things, especially the self, the person, exists. And because of that, then we get attached to what gives us pleasure. We have anger and want to destroy what interferes with us. We compare ourselves with others, and we feel arrogance when we're better. We feel jealous when we're worse. We compete when we're equal. So this wrong view of how things exist, gives forth, it's like the root that gives forth all these other afflictive kind of emotions that then, when they're active in our mind, motivate us to act, so they create karma. And then based on that karma, we get reborn and we face difficult situations. Okay? So it's for this reason that we want to generate wisdom that sees things as they are, because that has the power to totally eradicate the ignorance. When ignorance is eradicated, then all of its branches, the attachment, anger, arrogance, jealousy, and so on, are also eradicated. Oh, you woke up. Oh, mani pimyo, mani pimyo. Oh, mani pimyo, mani pimyo, mani pimyo. It's okay, sweetheart. Oh, mani pimyo. Oh, mani pimyo, mani pimyo. Go back to sleep. Yes, go back to sleep. Oh, mani pimyo, mani pimyo, mani pimyo. We'll find you a home. We will. For sure we'll find you a home. Yeah, you can stop being anxious. You're not drowning in the drain pipe anymore. You're safe. You're safe, sweetie. Okay. Good lungs, huh? Yeah, good lungs. Okay, then the next one is called diluted doubt. Yeah, so this is a mental factor that is indecisive and wavering and tends towards the incorrect conclusion about important points such as karma and its results, the Four Noble Truths, and the Three Jewels. Okay? So we talked a little bit about doubt this morning when I was describing the various states of mind that we go through, starting with wrong view, then we go to doubt, and then correct assumption and inference and direct perception. So this is a diluted form of doubt that is inclined towards the wrong view. Yeah, and so it prevents us from realizing the nature of reality. Yeah, and it comes to the incorrect conclusion regarding things such as karma and its effects. So doubt might say, I don't know about this whole karma thing. I don't know if our actions really have results or not. Maybe I can just do whatever I want to do and it won't have any bad results. As long as I don't get caught by the police, it's okay. Many of us have this idea, don't we? Yeah, so not really believing in karma, in the ethical dimensions of our actions, but just thinking, okay, I'll do what I want, but I just won't get caught. So that's, kind of a wrong view, and when we're leaning towards that kind of view, that's a diluted form of doubt. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that when we, put it this way, there's different kinds of doubt that we can have. There's one kind of doubt that's actually positive, and this is a kind of doubt that is curious. We hear something and it's like, I don't quite understand this. Like karma. I don't quite understand how karma works. I'm curious, how does that work? I'm not really sure if I believe in it, but I want to learn more. Okay? So that's a good kind of doubt, because that kind of doubt will, spur us on to learn and to reflect and to meditate, and in that way to reach some good conclusions. So that kind of doubt is more curiosity. This kind of diluted doubt is the one that goes, nah, I don't really know. I don't think so. Yeah, it's kind of, it has this, there's no curiosity in it that wants to learn. It's just the kind of mind, okay? So sometimes we may have that. Sometimes we may be practicing and we start to doubt the path. Is it really possible to get enlightened? I don't know. Does Buddha really exist? Is it really possible to overcome ignorance? Maybe everybody else can do it, but me, no. Okay. So that kind of doubt is this one, It's an afflictive kind of doubt, because when it's active in our mind, we can't go forward. They say that diluted doubt is like trying to sew with a two-pointed needle. Yeah? Can you imagine trying to sew with a needle that has 2 points? You can't go this way, you can't go that way. You're stuck. So that's what this one is. And, we can see the detrimental effects in our mind. So when we have doubt, it's not a thing of like saying to ourselves, oh, I shouldn't have a doubt. I should believe. I should have faith. All these shoulds are not very useful. Okay. Instead, it's more useful to say, okay, I'm having this diluted doubt now, but instead of staying in that mental state, let's transform it into curiosity and then go out and learn some more. And by learning some more, may I then, have figure out what I believe in and use reasoning to do that. And then I will, be sure in what I believe in a very comfortable way, without being cynical with doubt or without having blind faith. Okay, but I'm going to go out and learn. Right? Okay, then the sixth one is called wrong views. Yeah, and this one has five types of wrong views. Okay, so wrong views is either an afflictive intelligence that regards the aggregates as being inherently I and mine, or in direct dependence upon such a view, a diluted intelligence that develops further mistaken conceptions. Okay, so that's wrong views. So here it talks about it being an afflictive intelligence. So remember yesterday when we were talking about that mental factor prajna, which is translated as wisdom or intelligence? Yeah? And so actual prajna apprehends things correctly. Yeah. But it's possible to have an afflicted kind of intelligence that apprehends things in the wrong way, that comes to the wrong conclusion. And so all these different types of wrong views are that kind of intelligence. You think about something, but you come to the wrong conclusion. Yeah, so it's based on conceptuality, but the wrong kind of conceptuality. Okay, so so it's intelligent in the sense of it analyzes something. Okay, so there's 5 kinds of them. The first one is the view of personal identity. So that's the one that above was translated. I need to update this. What was it translated as? The view of the transitory composite. Yeah, but I think view of a personal identity, it explains better actually what this is. So it's a diluted intelligence that when referring to the aggregates of the body and the mind, conceives them to either be inherently I or mine. Okay, so some Buddhists say that this view of the personal identity looks at the body and mind. Other Buddhists, the Prasangikas, say that the Madhyamakas, that it views the conventional I that is merely designated independence upon the body and mind. But in either case, okay, this transitory composite refers to the body and mind. Because what are we human beings? There's a body, there's a mind, and then in dependence upon them, we label I or me. Yeah. Labeling that is okay, but when we're not satisfied with the I just being a label, and we think that there's something solidly there that truly exists, that really is me, that's when we get into trouble. Okay, so that's what this view of the personal identity is. Yeah, it's apprehending I, or it's apprehending mine as being something independent of everything else that exists. And it's a wrong mind because, in actual fact, everything exists in dependence upon other things. Yeah, everything exists dependent on other things. Nothing exists in its own right from its own side. Okay? Because we look around, everything comes from causes and conditions, right? And absolutely everything you look at has parts. Yeah, so things are not independent. So that's the I. The mind refers to the I when it's like the owner. I is the owner. I own my body and mind. Yeah. Okay, then the second one, the view holding to an extreme, is an afflictive intelligence that when referring to the I or mind, conceived by the view of the personal identity, regards them in an internalistic or nihilistic fashion. So what this means is we have the conventionally existent I that exists by being merely labeled independence upon the body and mind. Okay? But this view holding to an extreme then either says either that I has to be totally independent in such a way that at the time of death it's like a permanent soul that goes on to the next life, or the I, the self, completely becomes totally non-existent at the time of death. So these are two extreme views, okay? One is that, because we say I, there is a conventional I, but saying that at the time of death, either this I is not just a conventional I, but it's a truly existent one, like an independent soul. And so that something that is really, truly me then kind of picks up out of this body, goes over to this other body, and goes kerplunk. Okay? It's not like that. There's no permanent soul. Okay? Who we are is in constant flux all the time. But, okay, so you believe either that there's a permanent self that continues, or you say at the time of death, there's nothing. It's just total nothingness at the time of death. Okay? Both of those are wrong views, because there's not total nothingness at the time of death. There is a continuity of the self. There's a continuity of the consciousness. But neither the self nor the consciousness are permanent, independent entities. Okay? Then 3, holding wrong views as supreme, again, is an afflictive intelligence that regards other wrong views as best. So, looking at all the other wrong views, this one says, yeah, those views are the best ones to have. Okay, so you have a wrong view, and then you rejoice at having a wrong view. So that's being totally messed up, isn't it? Yeah. Then the 4th one is holding incorrect ethics and modes of conduct as supreme. So this is an afflictive intelligence that believes purification of mental defilements to be possible by means of ascetic practices and inferior codes of ethics that are inspired by wrong views. Okay? So this is a specific kind of wrong view. So in ancient India, there were people, there were lots of different religious traditions, and many of them had quite strange, shall we say, views of things. So, for example, let's say there's somebody who has clairvoyant powers and sees that somebody who is a human being in this lifetime, in their previous life, they were a dog. And then they draw the wrong conclusion that acting like a dog is the cause to be a human being in your next life. That's a pretty wrong conclusion, isn't it? Okay. But these people believe that. And so when you read the Pali Canon, sometimes these people would come to visit the Buddha. They would be crawling along on all fours. Yeah, they would eat by sticking their nose into a bowl. And when they came to the Buddha, they would curl up in a circle the way a dog curls up when it lies down. Because they thought that acting like a dog is the cause for human rebirth. Pretty wrong views about ethics, isn't it? Or there was another kind of school, another kind of wandering ascetic that thought that if you jumped on a trident and the middle point of the trident came out the top of your head, that you had attained liberation. Wrong view. Okay. Or, other kinds of wrong views would be thinking that, like, drinking holy water or bathing in the Ganges in and of itself without changing your mind purifies negative karma. That's a wrong view. Okay? Or thinking that having to please an external God by, offering animal sacrifice. That's a wrong view. Okay? So those are this one, the holding incorrect ethics and modes of conduct as supreme. And then the last one is just wrong views. Okay, so this is an afflictive intelligence that denies the existence of something that in fact exists. So it's not talking about, political wrong views or things like this. It's talking about wrong views about really important topics. Okay, so for example, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha exist. And somebody says there's no such thing as Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And they're very firm. It's not diluted doubt. It's firm conviction. That's really a wrong view. Yeah. Or somebody who says human beings are inherently selfish, so it's useless to try and attain awakening because there's no way that we can be free of our selfishness. That also is a wrong view. Okay? Another wrong view would be thinking that there is a creator God who created the universe and then sends people to heaven and hell. Yeah? From a Buddhist viewpoint, that's a wrong view. Okay? So those are the 5 types of afflictive, actually number 6 should say afflictive views, not wrong views, at the top. Yeah, at the top of this category, it should say afflictive, not wrong views, because the last one says, number E is wrong views, okay? Okay, so, yes. Okay, shall we run through the afflictions derived, the afflictions derived from these 6 root ones? We'll go through them very quickly. Okay, so the first set are afflictions derived from anger. So there's wrath, a mental factor that due to an increase of anger is a thoroughly malicious state of mind wishing to cause immediate harm. You ever experienced that? It's like being so mad that you want to punch somebody, you want to tell them off, you're going to slam that door right here and now. We've been like that, haven't we? Oh, you all look so innocent. Oh, me? No, it's my husband, it's my wife that acts like that, not me. I'm sweet, innocent. Right. Okay, number 2, vengeance, which is also grudge holding. So it's a mental factor that without forgetting firmly holds on to the fact that in the past one was harmed by a particular person and we want to retaliate. So 15 years ago, my brother did blah, 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 blah. 10 years ago, my sister did blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, And I want to get my revenge. I'm holding on to a grudge. I don't want to forgive this person. Okay? That's a pretty painful state of mind, isn't it? When we hold on to a grudge and we don't want to forgive. I come from a family where there is so much grudge holding that when they have a big family gathering, like somebody's getting married, making a seating chart is impossible, because this one doesn't talk to that one, who doesn't talk to this one, who doesn't talk to that one. Crazy. 3, spite. A mental factor which preceded by wrath or vengeance, and as an outcome of malice, motivates one to utter harsh words in reply to unpleasant words said by others. Okay, so spite is the mind that wants to tell somebody off and hurt their feelings really bad. Huh? Anybody ever have that in your mind? 4, jealousy. A distinct mental factor that out of attachment to respect, like reputation, or material gain, is unable to bear the good things others have. Okay, so whatever is good, we want respect, we want material gain, we want that boyfriend or girlfriend for ourselves. We cannot stand that somebody else has them. We can't stand that they're successful and we aren't. We are burning with envy. Pretty painful state of mind, huh? Yeah. And over what? Over what? Is that thing that we're so attached to that we want for ourselves really all that wonderful? Then 5, harmfulness or cruelty. A mental factor which with a malicious intention, devoid of any compassion or kindness, desires to belittle and disregard others. Yeah. Or harm them, flat out harm them. Okay? Yeah, we've seen the news reports of what ISIS does in beheading different people. Yeah, that's this one. Okay, then some afflictions derived from attachment. 1 is miserliness or stinginess, a mental factor which out of attachment to respect or material gain firmly holds on to one's possessions with no wish to give them away. So miserliness is a mind of fear. It's a mind that says, if I give something, then I won't have it. And if I don't have it, I'm terrified that I might want it or need it sometime in the future. So miserliness is the reason why at home your cupboards and closets and drawers are stuffed with things that you never use, that you cannot bring yourself to give away, even though other people need them much more desperately than you need them. Miserliness, isn't it? Okay. It's the cause to be born poor. Acting out of miserliness. Then 2 is complacency. A mental factor that being attentive to the marks of good fortune one possesses brings the mind under its influence and produces a false sense of confidence. So sometimes it's called complacency, sometimes haughtiness. Yeah, this mental factor is kind of a combination of both of those. So we have good fortune. I mean, look here in Singapore, good fortune. What an incredible country you live in. Yeah. But then we just have a false sense of confidence. We take the whole thing for granted and don't think that, why do I have such a good situation? It's because I created good karma in a previous life. So we just take our good situation for granted. Don't bother, to exert ourselves, to be generous, to keep ethical conduct, to develop fortitude or whatever. But just take stuff for granted, even being a little bit haughty about the whole thing. Okay? So we can see that that kind of attitude is going to lead to a lot of problems for us in the future. Then the third is excitement or agitation. So I spoke about this one earlier. It's a mental factor that through the force of attachment does not allow the mind to rest solely upon a virtuous object, but scatters it here and there to many objects. So excitement is the one that when you sit down to meditate, all of a sudden you're daydreaming, you're on the beach with your boyfriend, eating this delicious food, you just got a promotion, you're off in your daydream somewhere, la la land, okay? And it can last, you can spend your whole meditation session like that. Okay, then there's the afflictions derived from ignorance. So the first one is concealment. It's a mental factor that wishes to hide one's faults whenever another person with a benevolent intention, free from non-virtuous aspiration, closed-mindedness, hatred, or fear, talks about such faults. Okay? So we have a good friend who sees that we're going down the wrong path, we're making some bad choices, we're attached to a person who is not very ethical or who's not going to really reciprocate our goodwill and trust, or we're about to get involved in a bad business deal or who knows what, and our friend comes and talks to us with a positive intention, really wanting to help us, and so they point out this fault to us, that we're making wrong decisions or whatever. And we cover it up. It's like, who, me? No, I didn't do that. I'm not about to do that. No, you don't understand it. So it's concealment, but it's also the mind that rationalizes and justifies and gets defensive. Yeah, how maybe somebody comes and points out something to us, like, I thought you were going to have this report ready by Wednesday, yeah? And you go, oh, well, actually, the boss changed and it wasn't Wednesday, it's actually Thursday. Or, oh, my car broke down and, so I wasn't able to get it done. Or, oh, it's not done because somebody else was supposed to help me and they didn't. You know that mind? Yeah, the mind that makes excuses. That's this one. Okay, 2 is dullness or foggy-mindedness, a mental factor which, having caused the mind to lapse into darkness and thereby become insensitive, does not comprehend its objects clearly as it is. So you sit down to meditate and your mind is just flat, dull, lacking energy. You sit down to meditate on the Lam Rim or whatever it is, nothing. Yeah, that's dullness. Yeah. Then laziness, a mental factor that having firmly grasped an object offering temporary happiness, either does not wish to do anything constructive, or although wishing, is weak-minded. Okay, so we've got an object that gives us some temporary happiness, yeah, like a comfortable chair, and then we don't want to do anything constructive, or even if we want to, we can't get ourselves up. So laziness is the mind that cannot get us to the meditation cushion in the morning. Okay? Yeah. It's the mind that says, oh, I'll meditate tomorrow morning. Today I'm tired, you know, and I have to go to work, and work is important. I don't want to go to work tired, because work is much more important than Dharma. Wrong priorities. Yeah. So I'll go back to sleep and get a good night's sleep, and I'll do my morning meditation tomorrow. Right? Yeah. Laziness is the mind of, you know, there's some Dharma teachings going on or a retreat going on, and oh, I don't want to have to travel a half an hour across the city to get there. You know, it's like, who wants to sit in traffic for half an hour? I'll stay home and read the newspaper instead. Okay? So, then the number 4 here is lack of faith or lack of conviction. So it's the mental factor that since it causes one to have no belief or respect for that which is worthy of confidence, such as karma and its results, is the complete opposite of faith. So yesterday we talked about faith or confidence, trust in the triple gem. This one's the opposite of it. Okay, no belief, no respect for what is actually worthy of respect. And if we believed in it, would help us. Okay? Then forgetfulness, the mental factor which, having caused the apprehension of a constructive object to be lost, induces memory of and distraction towards an object of afflictions. So this one, forgetfulness, is the opposite of mindfulness. So remember, mindfulness was able to focus on a good object in such a way that we didn't forget it. So this one, you know, having, you know, cannot focus on a constructive object, and instead goes off and gets distracted about something. We have lots of this one in our meditation, right? Then 6, this non-introspective alertness. It's a mental factor which, being a diluted intelligence, which has made no or only a rough analysis, is not fully alert to the conduct of one's body, speech, and mind, and thus causes one to enter into careless indifference. Okay, so remember before we were talking about introspective awareness, it's this mental factor that in our daily life checks up and says, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I saying? Am I living according to my precepts? Am I living according to my values and principles? Okay, so it's that kind of introspective awareness is really useful and good. This one, okay, doesn't check up or make any analysis at all, or does a really sloppy job at it, and therefore, you know, is not very attentive or aware of what we are saying or doing or thinking. And thus, you know, we just don't care what we're saying, doing, or thinking. And then we, you know, afflictions manifest in our mind, and off we go, following the afflictions. Okay? I'm noticing as we're going through these root afflictions, the energy in the room is getting heavier, heavier, heavier. So you have to remember that, yes, we have these, but there are the virtuous ones that counteract them. And that these things are all based on ignorance, so they are not an innate part of an inherent part of our mind. Yeah, these things are not who we are. They're things that they're mental factors that can be eliminated from our mind. Okay, so it's very important to remember that. then the group of afflictions derived from both attachment and ignorance. Okay, so pretension, a mental factor which when one is overtly attached to respect or material gain, fabricates a particularly excellent quality about oneself, and then wishes to make it evident to others with the thought to deceive them. Okay, so we pretend to have good qualities we don't have. This is the mental factor that's active when you go for a job interview. Okay? It's like, oh, no, I don't know so much about that, but I'm a very quick learner. I can pick it up, you know. Or, oh, yes, of course I can do that. What does it mean? Yeah, so we're pretending to have good qualities we don't have. Or there's some attractive person, you know, and you want them to like you. So you try and figure out what kind of qualities they like, and then you pretend to have those qualities so that they'll be attracted to you. That is a dead end. Okay. Then the second one here is dishonesty. So it's a mental factor which, when one is overtly attached to respect or material gain, wishes to confuse others by keeping one's faults unknown to them. Yeah. Oh, you know, this is another one that you do in a job interview or a romantic relationship. Oh, I don't have that problem. Yeah. Oh, no, you know, so you cover up. You cover up, okay? So these two, pretension and dishonesty, function together, fabricating good qualities we don't have to deceive, you know, covering up bad qualities we have in order to deceive. And it's because we want material gain, or we want respect, or a job, or somebody to like us, or whatever it is. Okay, then afflictions derive from all three poisonous attitudes. So when we talk about the three poisonous attitudes, it's ignorance, anger, and attachment. So the first one, lack of integrity. So remember yesterday we talked about personal integrity? This is the opposite of that one. It's a mental factor which does not avoid negative actions for reasons of personal consciousness or for the sake of one's own dharma, one's own beliefs. Okay? So with this, when this one's prominent in our mind, we just do whatever we want to. We don't care. And same thing with the next one, inconsideration for others. A mental factor which, without taking others or their spiritual traditions into account, wishes to behave in a manner that doesn't avoid negative behavior. Okay? So again, we don't care about this one. I don't care about the effect of my actions on others. I'm just going to do what I want to do. Yeah? First one is, I don't care about my precepts. I don't care about, you know, what I think about myself. I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. Yeah. Both really, you know, mental factors that lead us in the wrong way. 3 is unconscientiousness, a mental factor that when one is affected by laziness, wishes to act freely in an unrestrained manner without cultivating virtue or guarding the mind against contaminated phenomena. So this is a reckless mind. Yeah, I don't care about virtue. I don't care. I'm just going to do what I want. Okay, and then 4 is distraction, a mental factor which arising from any of the 3 poisonous attitudes, and being unable to direct the mind towards a virtuous object, disperses it to a variety of other objects. So you're sitting down to meditate, and your mind's all over the universe thinking about all sorts of other stuff. Or even you're not sitting down to meditate, your mind's bouncing around the universe. Okay? Then we have the 4 variable mental factors. So these 4 in and of themselves are neither virtuous nor non-virtuous, but they become virtuous or non-virtuous in dependence upon our motivation and other mental factors that arise with them. So here the first one is sleep. Yeah, so sleep is a mental factor that makes the mind unclear, gathers the senses, consciousnesses inwards, and renders the mind incapable of apprehending the body. Okay? So, we've got to sleep. We have these kind of bodies. We need to sleep. It's very important before we go to sleep to generate a virtuous mind. So, because if we do, then our sleep becomes virtue. So, for example, we think, I'm going to sleep to rest my body so that, with an invigorated body and mind tomorrow, I can arise and practice virtue and generate bodhicitta and practice the path. Yeah? So if you think that before you go to bed, it transforms your sleep. You're sleeping for a good reason. A non-virtuous reason is, I am just so exhausted, kerplunk. Yeah. Regret. We talked about this earlier too. A mental factor which regards an appropriate or inappropriate action which one has performed of one's own accord or under pressure as something one does not wish to repeat. So when we regret our non-virtuous actions, that regret becomes virtue. When we regret being generous, that regret becomes non-virtuous. Okay, so we've got to be careful about what we regret. Then 3 is general investigation. So this is a distinct mental factor in dependence upon either intention or intelligence, searches for merely a rough idea about any object. So investigation is very useful in Dharma practice. It will, help us to get a general understanding of, let's say, one of the teachings, that the Buddha gave. So that kind of investigation is virtuous. Investigating which horse to bet on, that's a non-virtuous one, okay? And then the last of the 51 mental factors, precise analysis, is a distinctive mental factor which, in dependence upon intention or intelligence, analyzes the object in detail. So when you're meditating on emptiness, you really need to analyze in detail how things exist. So this factor of analysis is, crucial to understanding exactly what emptiness means. On the other hand, analyzing, analyzing the books of the account books of a company so that you can redesign the accounting books. That's a non-virtuous type of analysis. Okay? So those are the 51 mental factors. Yeah, we went through them rather quickly, but these, it can be really helpful to think about these. And, what we can do is post this, put it on the tuptenchudram.org website, and, correcting some of these translation things, and put it up, and then you can go to tuptenchudram.org and find it and download it. But then it's really useful to use as a meditation tool. you know, to really think about these different mental factors and, you know, how to encourage the virtuous ones, how to discourage the non-virtuous ones. Also on TuptanChildren.org, we have, because I've taught the mental factors in much more detail, longer than a quick weekend. And so those teachings, we have tapes of those teachings on the website. You can go and listen to them as well. Well, kind of asleep. When I opened this, then she opened her eyes. Go back to sleep, sweetheart. Okay. So now we have a few questions. We'll see if we have some answers. Okay. Okay, so there were a few questions that all kind of had to do with the same thing. Give me, and I would like some guidance and advice on how to manage my frantic and panicky mind to keep it checked, you know, kind of in general. In our daily lives, how do we strike a good balance between letting go and being proactive? And another one about, can you share how to balance between tranquility and motivation? Okay, so a lot of questions, you know, about how to find balance in your daily life and how to maintain a calm mind. Okay, so the first thing I recommend is when you get up in the morning, take refuge in the 3 jewels and generate your motivation. So even before you get out of bed, you know, to make the strong intention, today I'm not going to harm anybody as much as possible. Today I want to help others as much as possible. Today I'm going to really nurture the aspiration to become fully awakened for the benefit of all beings. That's called the bodhicitta. I'm going to nurture that as much as possible. So you cultivate that motivation in the morning, and then you come back to it periodically during the day. Yeah. So maybe, you know, your screensaver says bodhicitta, or it says loving kindness. You know, maybe your phone, your message, instead of, you know, some rock music or something, it's Om Mani Padme Hum. So you establish some things in your life that become reminders for you of your good intention. And so, you know, setting that intention is very important to actually be able to be calm and relaxed during the day. Yeah. And then, you know, make sure you have enough time each day to spend alone, either reading a Dharma book or doing some kind of meditation or going to Dharma class or something, so that you have time to really think about what's worthwhile, that you know, you discipline yourself so that you don't get so caught up in work and so anxious about work that that's all you can think about. Okay? Really, you know, make Dharma a very important part of your life. And just as you know, nourish your body every day by eating, you have to nourish your mind by reading Dharma, meditating, chanting, you know, whatever it is. Yeah? And that will help you a lot keep a kind of balanced, relaxed mind during the day. Okay? Can you please explain more about the prayer request? Okay, so the Abbey does this every year because people like to request the monastics to make prayers and dedications for different purposes. And so this year We're going to do it on Chinese New Year, on February 19th, I think it is. And the puja we're going to do is the Chidamani Tara puja. Tara is one female manifestation of the Buddha. She's kind of related to Kuan Yin in a way. And Tara's specialty is removing obstacles, and she also has a kind of quick wisdom. So if people have specific things that they would like us to dedicate for, then, you know, they list what those things are. And then in the puja, we read out the names and we make the dedications. Because by doing the puja, we accumulated a lot of merit, and then we dedicate it or steer it in the ways that people have requested us to do that. Oh, some of you may have seen pictures of Tara. There's many kinds of taras. One is a green Tara. You've seen green Tara. Another is a white Tara. Yeah. Okay, how do we work with fear? In my case, my fear seems to arise more as I age. I think that maybe our discussion group maybe covered some of this. You can reflect on that. Like I said, that, you know, with fear, there's this element of exaggeration. And so it's important just to realize that our mind is exaggerating, and that even if, you know, something that we don't like happens, we still have resources to rely on externally. We still have our own internal resources, you know, and that most of the fear is basically exaggerated. What is the Buddha's view on sexuality? How do we support a family member who is gay or lesbian? Buddha's view on sexuality. Sex is part of having this kind of body. So it's important, if you're a lay person, to avoid unwise or unkind sexual behavior. So that means, for example, having, you know, adultery. You're in a relationship and you go outside of your relationship, or even if you're single, you're sleeping with somebody who is involved in a relationship. It also means having unprotected sex if there's danger of a sexually transmitted disease. It also means just using somebody for our own sexual enjoyment without caring about the effects on them emotionally, you know, because you may think, oh, this is just a fling, but the other person may be getting very attached to you. And that's not really very fair to the other person. It brings a lot of hurt feelings to it. Okay? In terms of being gay or lesbian and supporting somebody, just accepting that they're a regular person, you know, that they have their choice of who they're going to fall in love with, and, you know, that's it. I don't think it has to be a big deal. Yeah. In the States, many years ago, you know, being gay or lesbian was a big thing. And now it's very interesting. Within just the last couple of years, you know, state after state is allowing gay marriage, and the court systems are saying that not allowing gay and lesbians to marry is against human rights, you know, and is against the Constitution. So things have really changed a lot in recent years. Okay, I think one more question, then we're going to stop. Oh, I know what the question is. Who's going to take the kitty home? Yeah? Anybody want to take the kitty home? Are we going to take it back to Pure Land? Yes? Okay, we'll take it back to Pure Land. Are you ready? Oh, we already gave the kitty a name. It's Upekkha. Upekkha means equanimity. And the reason she got this name is that at the Abbey, we had two kittens, Maitri, which means love, Karuna, which means compassion. Then a couple of weeks ago, a new kitty showed up at our door and said, I want to live here. So that kitty is named Mudita, or joy. And so there's 4 immeasurables. So we were saying the next kitty is going to be named Upeka, or equanimity. So this is Upeka. Yes, you have beautiful eyes. Now you have a name. Okay. So thank you all very much for coming. I rejoice in the merit you created. I rejoice in the merit we all created all together, and what you gain, and what you heard through in this weekend, please take home with you and think about it. Meditate on it, reflect on it, apply it to your life, make examples of all these different mental factors in your life. Continue to study the Buddha's teachings so that you learn how to increase the virtuous mental factors and decrease the non-virtuous ones. And so continue with your Dharma practice. There's a whole schedule of teachings from now through the 14th, and then also on the 31st and the 1st. So please come. And then on the on tuptenchudren.org and Sravasti.org, there's tons of Dharma materials. So feel free to, watch things, listen, read. We have a YouTube channel, and also come visit us. Yeah, it's really nice. Please come visit us.